You may have been given similar exercise by more than one person and still felt like nothing is working. In this video, I want to offer another perspective. This might not be the exercises that are the problem. There are 5 things most people never think to pay attention to during the practice. Ignoring them can slow your progress, even with the right exercise. Getting them right can help you get the most out of your time and effort. Whether you have been given stretches, strengthening exercise, or yoga movement for your hip pain, these 5 things apply to all of them. Hello and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Ira. I'm a movement coach and yoga teacher who helps people with persistent hip or lower back pain to find long-lasting relief, find confidence again, and get back to the life they love. So the 5 things to pay attention to are what the movement is meant to do for your body, what your body needs on each side, how you distribute your weight, how you breathe, and the mindset you bring to each practice. And let's dive into each one with more details. The first thing to pay attention to is the purpose of the movement. A common mistake people make, and I also made this mistake before, is that when we learn a new movement from another person, it's very natural to focus on the look of it. We try to match what we see. But when we focus on the shape, we stop paying attention to our body sensation. And without knowing which part of the body is supposed to be working, it is possible to perform a movement that looks right, but delivers very little benefits. Or even worse, it can put the body at the risk of injury. Let me show you what I mean. A very popular hip flexor stretch is low lunge or crescent lunge. And it's very common for people to think the lower you get in this posture, the better you are stretching the hip flexors. But this is not necessarily true. If you're not aware of what your pelvis is doing, you could end up unconsciously tilt your pelvis forward and then be able to get more range of motion going down. However, this is a little bit counterproductive. Because when your muscle is tilting forward, the hip flexor is already shortened. When we stretch the hip flexors in a shortened state, it counteracts the stretch itself. To get the most benefit out of low lunge, it is important to keep the pelvis neutral as you go down, which means the front of your pelvis remain facing forward. And when you go down, we're not tilting forward and we're not rotating sideways. By doing this, you may not get as low as you could before, but you would feel significantly more at the hip flexor for the stretch or get more benefit by doing this. Next, let's talk about your body may not need the same thing for both sides, and here is why. Our organs are not symmetrical inside the body, so it is perfectly normal. No one is perfectly symmetrical. When we lose some function in one area, the rest of the body adapts to pick up the extra workload. And when the body has been compensating for too long, it starts to function differently on each side, and pain can start to show up as well. In that situation, working both sides of the body in exactly the same way does not always make sense because each side needs something different. A good example of this is hip shift. So when the hip shifts in one way, both sides needs to be addressed, but in different ways. To show you visually, let's assume I usually stand like this. So I stand in a way that my hip has shifted towards this way and it has shifted away from the midline. And this side of my hip needs more strengthening because it needs the strength to pull the hip back towards the center and hold it here. However, this side doesn't need the same work because this side is already working hard to pull the pelvis this way. Once the body returns to a more aligned position and the hip starts to functioning more evenly on both sides, then working both sides start to make more sense. If you need extra support to figure out what your body needs, the link to work with me is in the description. So, how you program the movement matters, and so does how you set yourself up before the movement even begins. Before you begin to move, there is something worth checking your foundation. In yoga, foundation refers to the parts of the body that is in contact with the floor. When you're doing standing exercise on both feet, it is important that the weight is distributed evenly between them. And for a body that is already adapted into more of an asymmetry, it is very easy to bear more weight on one foot unconsciously. And over time, that imbalance can contribute to pain. Making sure the foundation is even before we move allow us to build strength in the most efficient way possible. Let me show you what it looks like with a standing squat. Before you get into the movement, let's pay attention to the bottom of our foot. There are 3 contact points on each feet. The base of the big toe, base of the pinky toe, and the heel. And together, they form like a tripod. So you basically have 2 tripods on your body. Now, feel the 6 contact point on the floor and make sure that your body weight are distributed evenly, roughly evenly, between left and right. Then squat from this position and make sure as you go down, the 6 contact points remain even. Imagine you have 2 tripods underneath your foot and go down slowly and stand back up. You may find this very awkward at the beginning and you may not go as low as you used to be. That's very normal because this is new to the body. But as you practice more and more with this very steady and stable foundation, you will eventually go even lower and lower to train the body to have more capacity. Here is something that often goes completely unnoticed during practice: the breath. Many people do not pay attention to how they're breathing during the movement at all. And that includes holding the breath, breathing shallow or fast, or not pairing the breath with the movement itself. Breathing slow and deeply during the practice has 2 important benefits. First, it calms the nerve system, so the body is not holding unnecessary tension and the muscle have more capacity to perform. Second, pairing the breathing correctly with the movement helps to engage the core, and a strong core connection is crucial for stability throughout the whole body. How to pair breathing with the movement. And let's use the squat as an example. We'll be building on top of this strong foundation. So find your weight distributing evenly among the 6 contact points. On the inhale, expand your lung at the same time goes down. And on the exhale, push the air out. You need to engage your core and then push through your leg to stand back up. So it's on the inhale, goes down, and exhale, belly button towards spine, push through the leg to stand back up. Usually, when we are generating force, we want to be on the exhale because we are engaging the core, pushing the air out. The last thing I want to talk about is perhaps the most overlooked of all: the mindset you bring to each time you practice. We live in a world that values efficiency, and it is very natural to think that doing more means getting better results. So people tend to push for more repetition, more intensity, and they look for soreness after a session as a sign of something worked. But when the goal is to reduce pain and move better, that mindset can actually slow the recovery down. This is something I see often with clients, and it's one of the hardest shifts to make because we're so used to equating more with better. When it comes to recovery, slowing down and focusing on the quality of the movement makes a far bigger difference than pushing harder. So the measurement of progress needs to shift. Instead of asking, did I do enough? Try asking, can I feel the muscle that is supposed to be working? Am I paying attention to what my body is experiencing? Am I breathing more consciously? Do I feel differences before and after? Those are the signs that real progress is happening. A slow speed at the right direction is way better than a fast speed at the wrong direction. When you bring all these 5 things together, your practice becomes a completely different experience for your body. You can make progress fast by moving slow. And if you're curious about what a practice that brings all of this together actually looks like, that is what my next video is about. I'll be sharing the approach I use with clients to help people set up the practice that fits their body and enjoy movement again. If your hip exercise are mostly stretches, but they have not given you the relief you're looking for, you may need something else. I break it down in details in this video on your screen right now.